Ever wondered what secrets hide inside the most mysterious personality type's phone? You know, that friend who seems to understand everyone but remains a complete enigma themselves? Well, buckle up because we're about to dive deep into the digital world of an INFJ, and trust me, it's nothing like what you'd expect. If you've ever tried to peek at an INFJ's phone or wondered why they guard it like it's Fort Knox, you're in for a treat. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the unfiltered truth about what's really lurking in their digital sanctuary. From their quirky app choices to their mind-blowing organization systems, we're about to reveal 13 things that'll make you go, oh my gosh, that's so them. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's take this journey together. Because honestly, an INFJ's phone isn't just a device. It's like a window into their soul, and what we'll find might just blow your mind. 1. A carefully curated photo gallery that tells stories. Here's the thing about INFJs. They don't just snap random pictures. Nope, that's not their style at all. When you scroll through their photo gallery, you're basically flipping through a carefully crafted visual diary that'd make professional photographers weep with envy. You won't find hundreds of blurry selfies or random food pics scattered everywhere. Instead, you'll discover photos that capture moments, emotions, and memories with an almost artistic precision. They've got that sunset from 3 months ago that perfectly captured how they felt during a life transition. There's a photo of their coffee cup next to an open book that somehow tells the story of a perfect Sunday morning better than any Instagram influencer ever could. And don't even get me started on their nature photography. INFJs have this uncanny ability to find beauty in the most ordinary things. That wilted flower in their garden? It's not just a dying plant to them. It's a metaphor for resilience, change, and the beauty in life cycles. They'll capture it at just the right angle, with just the right lighting, and somehow make you feel something profound just by looking at it. But here's what's really wild. They'll have entire albums dedicated to random architectural details, cloud formations, or the way light hits different surfaces throughout the day. It's like they're collecting visual poetry, one photo at a time. And if you ask them about any single picture, they'll tell you exactly when they took it, what they were feeling, and why that moment mattered to them. 2. Text message threads that look like novels. Okay, let's talk about their texting habits because this is where things get really interesting. An INFJ's text messages aren't just messages, they're literary masterpieces wrapped in casual conversation. While most people send quick, hey, or what's up texts, INFJs are over here writing full paragraphs that could honestly be published as short stories. They'll respond to your simple, how was your day? With a 3-part essay that takes you on an emotional journey through their entire experience, complete with detailed observations about human behavior they witnessed at the grocery store. And the drafts. Oh my goodness, the drafts. For every message they actually send, there are probably 5 different versions sitting in their drafts folder. They'll write something, delete it, rewrite it, overthink it, and then craft the perfect response that somehow manages to be both authentic and considerate of how you might interpret every single word. But here's what makes it even more fascinating. They remember conversations from months ago. You could reference something you discussed in passing back in February, and they'll not only remember it but probably have screenshots saved because that conversation meant something to them. Their text threads aren't just communication. They're relationship archives, filled with inside jokes, deep philosophical discussions, and moments of vulnerability that they treasure. The really crazy part? They'll have these incredibly deep, meaningful conversations happening simultaneously with like 3 different people, and somehow manage to give each person their full attention and authentic responses. It's like they're running a counseling service through text messages, and honestly, they're probably better at it than some actual therapists. 3. A notes app that's basically their second brain. If you really want to understand an INFJ, you need to see their notes app. Seriously, it's like stumbling upon their secret headquarters where all their thoughts, dreams, and random epiphanies go to live. They've got notes for everything, and I mean everything. There's a note titled Random Thoughts at 3 a.m. that's probably longer than most people's college essays. Another one called Things People Said That Made Me Think, that's basically a collection of quotes and observations that hit them right in the feels. And don't even get me started on their ideas for stories I'll probably never write folder that contains enough material to launch a small publishing company. But it's not just creative stuff. They've got detailed analyses of their relationships, complete with observations about communication patterns and emotional dynamics. There's probably a note somewhere titled, "Why Sarah Always Seems Sad on Tuesdays," where they've documented behavioral patterns with the dedication of a research scientist. And the organization system? It's either incredibly detailed with folders, subfolders, and color coding that would make a librarian jealous, or it's complete chaos where profound insights about the meaning of life are sandwiched between grocery lists and random song lyrics that spoke to their soul at 2 a.m. on a Thursday. The beautiful thing is, they can find exactly what they're looking for in this apparent madness. They'll scroll through hundreds of notes and somehow locate that specific quote they saved 8 months ago that perfectly explains what they're feeling today. It's like they have an internal GPS system for their own thoughts and emotions. For social media apps they rarely post on but always scroll through. Here's something that might surprise you about INFJs and social media. They're the ultimate lurkers. They've got all the apps downloaded, they're constantly checking them, but good luck finding recent posts from them on any platform. They'll spend hours scrolling through Instagram, carefully studying every detail of their friends' lives like they're conducting anthropological research. They notice everything: the subtle changes in someone's posting patterns, the shift in tone between posts, the friends who appear and disappear from photos. They're basically social media detectives, picking up on clues about people's lives that others completely miss. But when it comes to posting their own content, that's a whole different story. They'll spend 45 minutes crafting the perfect caption, taking 16 different versions of the same photo, and then delete the whole thing because they decided it wasn't authentic enough or worried about how people might perceive it. Their Instagram might have like 12 posts from the past 2 years, but each one is carefully chosen and probably has some deeper meaning that most people won't even catch. They're not trying to build a brand or get followers. They're trying to share something genuine, and that's a lot harder to do than most people realize. And TikTok? They'll watch it for hours, saving videos that perfectly capture emotions they can't put into words, but they'd rather die than make their own content. They're too busy analyzing the cultural implications of trending sounds and wondering about the psychological motivations behind viral challenges to actually participate in them. 5. Meditation and mental health apps galore. Mental health and self-awareness aren't just buzzwords for INFJs, they're a way of life. So naturally, their phones are loaded with apps designed to support their inner journey and emotional well-being. You'll find meditation apps like Headspace, Calm, and probably 3 others they're trying out to see which one resonates best. They've got mood tracking apps where they document their emotional patterns with the same dedication other people use to track their workouts. There's probably a journaling app filled with daily reflections that read like philosophical treatises on the human experience. But here's what makes it really INFJ. They don't just use these apps superficially. They dive deep. Their meditation app shows streaks that would make dedicated yogis jealous, not because they're trying to build habits, but because they genuinely crave that inner peace and self-understanding that meditation provides. Their mood tracking isn't just happy or sad. They've probably customized it with incredibly specific emotional categories like nostalgically melancholy or cautiously optimistic with underlying anxiety. They need that level of nuance because their emotional landscape is incredibly complex, and generic mood categories just don't cut it. And the therapy apps? They've probably got something like BetterHelp bookmarked, not necessarily because they're in crisis, but because they believe in continuous growth and self-improvement. They see therapy the same way athletes see personal trainers, as a tool for optimizing performance, except in their case, it's optimizing their emotional intelligence and relationship skills. 6. A music library that's basically organized therapy sessions. Music isn't just entertainment for INFJs, it's medicine, therapy, and emotional regulation all rolled into one. Their music library is like a carefully curated pharmacy for their feelings, with specific playlists for every possible emotional state and life situation. They've got playlists with incredibly specific names that would make you laugh if they weren't so perfectly accurate. Songs for when I'm feeling everything and nothing, rainy day existential crisis, music for feeling connected to humanity, And songs that make me believe in love again are just the beginning. But it's not just about having different playlists, it's about how they use music to process emotions and experiences. That breakup playlist isn't just sad songs. It's a carefully constructed emotional journey that starts with anger, moves through sadness, and somehow ends with hope and self-empowerment. They've basically created their own musical therapy sessions. And the variety? It's insane. You'll find everything from obscure indie artists who have like 12 monthly listeners to classical pieces that most people can't even pronounce. They collect songs the way other people collect stamps, except each song represents a moment, feeling, or memory that meant something to them. The really beautiful part is how they associate music with people. They'll have secret playlists dedicated to specific friends or family members, songs that remind them of that person or capture the essence of their relationship. It's like they've created a musical diary of everyone who matters to them. 7. Reading and learning apps that never stop growing. INFJs are basically knowledge sponges with legs, so their phones are packed with reading and learning apps that most people have never even heard of. Their Kindle app has a library that would make a small-town library jealous, and their want-to-read list is probably longer than most people's actual reading history. They've got podcast apps with subscriptions to shows about psychology, philosophy, creative writing, and probably some incredibly niche topics like the history of abandoned places or conversations with former cult members. They don't just listen to podcasts for entertainment. They listen to understand, to learn, and to feed their constantly curious minds. Their browser bookmarks are a rabbit hole of articles they've saved to read later, research papers they stumbled upon during 2 a.m. internet deep dives, and blog posts from writers who somehow perfectly captured thoughts they've been trying to articulate for years. They bookmark things the way other people save memes, constantly and with the best of intentions to actually go back to them later. And the language learning apps? They probably have Duolingo with a streak that makes other people feel guilty, not because they necessarily plan to become fluent, but because they're fascinated by how language shapes thought and culture. They want to understand how other people experience the world through different linguistic frameworks. The documentary apps are another goldmine. They've watched everything from true crime series to nature documentaries to social experiments, always trying to understand people, systems, and the world around them on a deeper level. 8. Calendar apps that plan everything except social events. Here's where INFJs get really interesting: their relationship with planning and organization. Their calendar apps are meticulously maintained masterpieces that account for everything from work deadlines to alone time to process emotions blocks. But somehow social events always seem to be flying by the seat of their pants affairs. They'll have reminders set for things like water plants, call mom, and take time to journal about this week's experiences. They schedule their self-care like other people schedule business meetings because they know if they don't actively protect that time, the world will happily fill it with other people's needs and expectations. But ask them about weekend plans? They'll give you this deer-in-headlights look because social planning requires a different kind of energy that they can't always predict they'll have. They might want to hang out, but they also might need to stay home and reorganize their bookshelf while listening to sad music and thinking about life. Their calendar has buffer time built in around social events, not because they don't want to see people, but because they need processing time before and after social interactions. You'll see blocks labeled things like decompress after dinner with friends or prep time for work party, because they understand their own social battery better than most people understand their phone batteries. 9. Voice memo apps full of random thoughts and observations. This is where things get really personal and honestly pretty beautiful. INFJs use voice memos like other people use diary entries, capturing thoughts, observations, and emotions in real time when writing feels too slow or structured. They'll record themselves at random moments throughout the day, walking to work and noticing how the morning light hits the buildings differently in autumn, or sitting in their car after a difficult conversation, processing what just happened and how it made them feel. These aren't polished recordings, they're raw, authentic glimpses into how their minds work. Some of the voice memos are incredibly profound insights about human nature or life that they stumbled upon during ordinary moments. Others are just them working through confusion or frustration, talking themselves through problems the way other people might call a friend. It's like they're their own best therapist, and they're documenting the sessions. The really touching ones are often about people they care about, observations about a friend's growth, worries about a family member, or gratitude for moments of connection that might seem small to others but felt significant to them. They're constantly noticing and appreciating the subtleties of relationships and human behavior. And sometimes you'll find these incredibly creative voice memos where they're developing story ideas, character concepts, or just exploring philosophical questions that popped into their heads. Their voice memo app is basically a treasure trove of their inner world, completely unfiltered and authentic. 10. Password managers and security apps that protect their privacy. Privacy isn't just important to INFJs, it's essential for their survival. They've got password managers with incredibly complex passwords that probably contain references to obscure literature and personal inside jokes that only they would understand. Their phone security is like Fort Knox, but for feelings instead of gold. They use VPNs, encrypted messaging apps, and probably have two-factor authentication set up on everything, not because they're doing anything shady, but because they need to know their personal space is actually personal. Their inner world is precious and vulnerable, and they protect it accordingly. Their privacy settings on social media are customized to an almost artistic degree. Different groups of people see different versions of their profiles, not because they're being deceptive, but because they understand that different relationships require different levels of intimacy and sharing. They've probably researched digital privacy more than most cybersecurity professionals, not out of paranoia, but out of a deep need to control what parts of themselves they share with the world and when. They need to know they have escape routes and safe spaces, even in digital environments. 11. Weather apps they check obsessively, but not for planning. INFJs have this fascinating relationship with weather that goes way beyond just knowing whether to bring an umbrella. They check weather apps constantly, but not really for practical planning purposes. They're more interested in how the weather affects mood, energy, and the general vibe of the day. They'll check the weather and immediately start thinking about how the approaching storm system might be affecting their friend who gets seasonal depression, or whether the sunny weekend will be perfect for that outdoor coffee date they've been looking forward to. Weather, for them, is intrinsically connected to emotions and human experience. They probably have multiple weather apps because each one provides different types of information that matter to them. One shows the detailed hourly breakdown, another has better radar imagery, and a third one has those atmospheric pressure readings that help them understand why they woke up with a headache. The radar feature gets used extensively, not just for rain, but for watching storm systems develop and move. There's something almost meditative about watching weather patterns, and it feeds their need to understand systems and how different elements interact with each other. 12. Shopping apps they browse but rarely buy from. Online shopping for INFJs is more like window shopping therapy than actual purchasing. They'll have Amazon, Etsy, and probably several smaller boutique apps downloaded, not because they're big spenders, but because they love the process of discovering and curating things that speak to them. Their wish lists and saved items are incredibly thoughtful collections of things they probably don't need but absolutely love the idea of owning. That handmade ceramic mug from an artist in Oregon, the vintage book about philosophy they found on Etsy, or the sustainable clothing brand that perfectly aligns with their values, it all goes in the wish list to be appreciated and considered. They research purchases like they're writing doctoral dissertations. They read reviews, check company ethics, compare prices across multiple platforms, and often spend so much time researching that they either talk themselves out of the purchase entirely or forget what they were looking for in the first place. But when they do buy something, it's usually perfect and meaningful. They don't impulse shop. They carefully consider how each purchase fits into their life, their values, and their carefully curated personal aesthetic. Quality over quantity isn't just a shopping philosophy for them, it's a life philosophy. 13. Hidden creativity apps they're too shy to share. Here's where we get to the really beautiful secret stuff. INFJs have incredibly rich creative lives, but they often keep their creative pursuits private until they feel they've reached some impossible standard of perfection. Their phones are loaded with creative apps they use in secret, afraid to share their work with the world. They've got writing apps filled with poetry, short stories, and creative nonfiction pieces that would honestly blow people away, but they're convinced it's not good enough yet. Their art apps contain digital sketches, photo edits, and design experiments that showcase incredible talent and unique perspectives. Music creation apps are another hidden treasure. They might have GarageBand filled with melodies they hummed and recorded at random moments, or lyrics they wrote during particularly emotional experiences. Some INFJs have entire albums worth of songs sitting on their phones that no one will ever hear because they're too self-critical to share. The really touching thing is how their creativity is often inspired by other people, songs written for friends, poems about family members, or art pieces that capture moments of human connection they witnessed. Their creativity isn't about self-expression as much as it's about processing and honoring the beauty they see in the world and the people around them. And the goal-setting and project planning apps they use for creative pursuits? They're simultaneously incredibly detailed and completely abandoned. They'll map out entire novel structures or plan art series with the dedication of professional project managers, then get overwhelmed by their own ambition and let the projects sit unfinished while they move on to processing the next wave of inspiration. The digital sanctuary of deep souls. Looking at an INFJ's phone is like getting a backstage pass to one of the most complex, beautiful, and carefully curated inner worlds you'll ever encounter. It's not just a device to them. It's a tool for understanding themselves, connecting with others, and processing the incredible depth of experience that comes with being someone who feels everything deeply and notices everything constantly. Their digital habits reflect their core values: authenticity over popularity, depth over breadth, quality over quantity, and meaningful connection over casual interaction. They use technology not to escape reality, but to better understand and navigate it. Every app, every saved photo, every carefully crafted text message is part of their ongoing quest to live authentically while staying connected to the people and world around them. What makes this even more beautiful is how much thought and intention they put into their digital presence, even when nobody else might notice. They're not trying to impress anyone or build a personal brand. They're trying to honor their own experience and create genuine connections with others. In a world that often rewards surface-level engagement and quick dopamine hits, INFJs use technology as a tool for depth, reflection, and meaningful human connection. So the next time you meet an INFJ who seems a little protective of their phone or takes forever to respond to texts, remember that you're dealing with someone who treats digital communication as seriously as face-to-face conversation. Their phone isn't just storing data, it's storing pieces of their heart, fragments of their thoughts, and evidence of all the beauty and complexity they see in everyday life. And honestly, we could all probably learn something from their approach to technology. In a world that's increasingly fast, shallow, and disconnected, INFJs are using their phones to slow down, go deeper, and stay connected to what really matters. Their digital habits might seem quirky or overly complicated to some people, but they're actually a masterclass in intentional living and authentic connection. That's the unfiltered truth about what you'll find inside an INFJ's phone. Not just apps and data, but evidence of a soul that's constantly seeking understanding, connection, and meaning in everything they encounter. And isn't that exactly what we'd expect from the advocates and dreamers of the personality world?